Hi, everyone. Welcome to the 200th episode of the Leadership Purpose with Dr. Robin podcast. Can you believe that? 200 episodes. We're so glad that you're celebrating here today because this is a celebration. 200. And we're starting season 5 today. So we're in the 5th season of the podcast. And in this new season, we have a different focus. We'll focus our interviews still with high achieving women, but women who have navigated career transitions in search of more meaning, purpose, and fulfillment. So, for you, whether you're stepping into the workforce for the first time, or if you're rethinking your career, or you're midway, or making a later in life shift, this season is all about exploring the pivotal moments when women realize they need more purpose, more meaning, and more fulfillment in their work. So we'll hear from women who have redefined their careers, not just for success, but also for alignment with their purpose. They will share how they found or are still finding their way to work that truly aligns with who they are. So if you're feeling that pull to pursue something more meaningful, these conversations are here to inspire and guide you in your journey toward purpose. So that's the focus of our new season. But now, let me take a few moments and look back on the past 200 episodes and share some lessons I learned from that experience. And keep in mind, the lessons are not just about podcasting, it's about the lessons I learned on how I approach now my life, my personal life, and my professional life from going through that experience. So if you're thinking about a transition, a career transition at any stage, these lessons are for you. Okay? All right. So here's the first one. Let's start. Lesson one, stepping out in fear. Yeah, stepping out in fear. That means feeling the fear and still stepping out. Because fear was the biggest hurdle for me when I first s- thought about and started the podcast. It took me a long time to take the first step because I was worried. And I really didn't even know what I was worried about. I just knew I was worried. And I mentioned this in a previous episode, uh, the way the fear got my attention, like I was not aware of it, but the way it got my attention, I was in a conversation with a group of my younger cousins. And because they're much younger than I am, I call them the youngins, although they tell me we're not so young anymore. But anyway, I was in a conversation with them about something else, and I told them, I really want to start a podcast. I've been thinking about it for a long time, but for some reason, I'm just worried. And so, like, simultaneously, like, four or five of them looked at me and, like, about what? And they looked at me like it was so crazy to worry, like I had no need to worry. And something about that moment just shifted in me, and it made me realize they're right. I could do it, even in the midst of whatever it was I was worried about. Looking back, I was probably worried about, being vulnerable, putting myself out there to criticism and all that kind of thing. But I wasn't aware of it at that time. But they helped me shift and know that I was feeling that, but I really had no need. There was no need to do that. And shortly after that, I mean, I don't know, it just seemed like it was instantaneously, but it was probably within the next couple of weeks. As soon after I decided, not going to be worried, I'm going to move forward. Lo and behold, Linda popped up. She popped up online. So you might say, who's Linda? Linda is my amazing podcast manager. And so she popped up online and she was looking for someone to work with, and we connected. And she was able to help me get started. And even then, some of that fear was still lingering. She said, let's get started with the first 4 episodes. And we had plans to do that, and we were doing that. And she said, are you ready to launch after we got the 4 episodes recorded? And I was like, not yet, not yet. And so the fear was creeping back in. And I kept saying, not yet, not yet. And she just gently, every now and then, said, are you ready? And encouraged me. And eventually, we launched the podcast. And that was in February of 2021 when we launched. And so The fear was my biggest hurdle, but I was paralyzed for a while, but I didn't let the fear keep me from moving forward. So now that's the lesson for you. So much can happen when you just step out, even if you're afraid. The fear didn't go away from me immediately, as you heard, but I kept moving. And as I kept moving, I started to feel the momentum. And as we started going with the podcast, each episode brought a little more confidence and a little less fear. And over time, that fear that in the beginning held me back from even started turned into excitement about what could happen next. It was really exciting. And so looking back, I realized that fear is often just the beginning of something incredible. So if you're afraid to start something new or make a career transition, know that it's okay to start afraid. Do it afraid. Just start. Do something, and it will get you on your way. So that's lesson one. Now, lesson two, there's power in receiving and or asking for help. There's power in receiving help, or asking for help. And that's the second biggest lesson I learned. I learned that I couldn't do this alone. And, it's in my kind of personality and my nature to try to handle everything on my own and by myself. But I knew for sure that I could not do this alone. And I knew I needed help. And so, as I mentioned in that story about when I realized I had that fear and I wanted to move forward, and I knew also that I couldn't do it alone. And that's when Linda popped up. And it was a game changer. When she came on, we actually got it going. I don't know if I ever would have started it, honestly, without her help. And so then I was able to focus. I let her do what she was good at and bringing it all together, and I could focus on my passion, which is connecting with you. That's the thing I enjoy, connecting with you, the listeners, and bringing meaningful content to the episodes. So the lesson, there is power in receiving help and or asking for help. And sometimes we think that we need to wear all the hats or do all the things. But the truth is, by letting someone else in, we create space for our own growth and the success of the thing we're working on. So that was my second lesson, the power of receiving and or asking for help. All right, third lesson, learning by doing. Learning by doing. So the third and final lesson I'll share is all about the journey itself. I've learned by doing. After 200 episodes across 4 seasons of doing this podcast, I now realize that real growth doesn't come from planning the perfect show, the perfect thing. It actually comes from doing the work day in and day out. Of course, planning is necessary, but that's not where it comes from. That's not where the growth comes from. The growth comes from doing it. So every episode has taught me more about myself and about others. And these insights are priceless because they shape what comes next. And I learned you don't have to do it, you don't have to have everything figured out from the beginning. Although for me and my personality type, and maybe for you, I like to have things figured out from the beginning. But you don't have to have it all figured out. You'll figure it out along the way. So every solo episode, every interview, every moment, they all taught me valuable lessons about being in the process and not trying to control every detail from the start. So if you want to pursue something new or make a transition in your career, no matter what phase of career you're in, my advice is to start moving forward. Start moving forward. Don't wait until you feel fully ready because You might never really feel fully ready. You'll learn as you go, and that's where the real growth and success happens. All right, so here's the recap of the 3 lessons I learned over 200 episodes of this podcast. Lessons that I now in my life help me personally in my life and professionally in my life. And I share with you to help you if you are wanting to start something new, or if you're wanting to make a career transition toward having a career that has more meaning and purpose and fulfillment. Here's the 3 lessons I learned. First lesson, lesson number 1, step out, even in fear, because amazing things can happen when you do. Lesson 2, receiving help when it's offered or asking for it. This could be the key to unlocking everything. So, lesson 2, receiving help when it is offered to you or asking for help. This could be the key to unlocking everything. And lesson number 3, you learn by doing. The journey itself will guide you. So that's lesson 3. You learn by doing. The journey itself will guide you. Those are the lessons I learned that I share with you. I hope you take them with you. And I thank you for tuning in today and being a part of this incredible journey, this podcast journey with me. And I hope these lessons inspire you to move forward, ask for help or receive help, and trust that you'll figure things out along the way. So if you enjoyed today's episode, please review or share this episode with a friend who might need it, who might need to hear this message. Share it with them. And then keep moving, keep learning, and keep showing up, even when you're afraid to do so. You can do it. All right. And until next time, this is Dr. Robin.